MCA Canada's Toolbox Talks, podcast for the Mechanical Contractors Association of Canada. My name's Ken Lancastle. I'm the Chief Operating Officer with the association. Very pleased to be joined today by David Rames, Senior Product Manager of Midea. David, thanks for joining us.
Ken, thanks for having me on. I love to talk shop and, maybe teach someone a thing or two for sure.
Well, certainly me, if nothing less. Well, let's get into it a little bit. Now, David, I know you've got some background in the industry. It's not new for you. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you got to Midea?
Yeah, so 20 plus years in the HVAC industry, 17 of that spent in distribution for a major manufacturer everybody's heard of. And then one day my phone rings and says, "Hey, David, we want to talk to you." And this was in June. And I said, "It's 1 o'clock on a Wednesday in June. I don't have 5 seconds to talk to anybody, but if you call me back at 6, we can talk." And then it just so happened to be Midea, and they told me of what their plans were in North America and what they wanted to do and the incredible products that they wanted to innovate and develop. And so that 5 minutes turned into 45 minutes. And then just a couple months later, here I sit. So I've been with Midea it'll be 5 years in August. And boy, we hit the ground running. And the concept behind all of this is just innovation and performance, and try to get it into the marketplace and educate everyone on what these products can actually do now that they didn't know they could do.
I know. I think we're going to get into some of the technology a little bit later on. But I'd love to know a little bit more about Midea as well, because as you say, it's I would say it's a newer name, and certainly in the Canadian market. So I'd love to hear a little bit about the company itself, the background, and what the experience has been like so far heading into the North American and the Canadian market.
Yeah, so Midea is a Fortune Global 500 company. I think the last time I checked, we were about number 245. We always tease because in the past, over the last few years, people are like, "Well, haven't we have heard of you?" And I said, "Well, we're just a little mom and pop shop with 275,000 employees and manufacturing in almost every country of the world, and the global Fortune 500." But when you kind of break that down with Midea Group, I'm in the Midea Residential Air Conditioning division. And so with Midea Residential Air Conditioning, we're in Canada and the U.S., so North America. And then here in Louisville is our Midea America Research Center in Louisville, Kentucky. And basically our job is to develop and innovate products that match the needs of North American consumers. Practical, innovative solutions is what we say. So they don't get too fancy. Where only 5% of the people can afford it. But we want to make these products to where everyone in North America can afford them, get them in their homes, and start to see the differences in both comfort and utility savings as well.
Absolutely. Well, and as I sort of alluded to before we had a chance to hit record on this, I certainly saw the Midea name showing up during all the Stanley Cup playoff games that I've been watching on the Dasher board. So, certainly as a name, there's some brand recognition that's starting to happen in the market up here in Canada. We talking about innovation, talking about technology. The heat pump marketplace in the Canadian market has always been one that people have generally been quick to criticize, I would say, and quick to say, "Well, that's not going to work in our climate. We have a very unique set of circumstances here." But I know the technology's come a long way. So I'd love if you could just jump into some of the advancements that you're seeing that Midea is taking part in, that are the shifts that we're seeing in the market. So the technology is adapting to some of those criticisms that we've heard in the past.
Well, I think we have to start at educating the consumer, because we found out we skipped a couple steps, and we found out that the consumer didn't even know a heat pump could actually heat and cool. So being product experts, we get a little ahead of ourselves. And so we do hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of consumer research, and that is through not only consumers, but contractors as well. And we find out that they really don't know. And so a couple of years ago, we did a study with 2,000 homeowners, and we said, "Hey, do you know what a heat pump is?" And 80% of those folks said, "Yeah, of course I know what a heat pump is." And then the next question was, "Did you know there are heat pumps on the market that could keep your house warm at temperatures below freezing?" And that 80% went to 4%. So we knew at that point in time, we know the technology is there, but they didn't know the technology was there. And so we want to make sure that they know when you think about a heat pump, we're basically transferring heat. So it's actually a little mind blowing now that at well below freezing outside, there's still enough heat outside to transfer inside to heat your home to whatever temperature you want. It's kind of a crazy thought because when you walk out and it's well below freezing and you go, boy, there's no heat out here. But the technology has advanced so much, we can actually pull that heat in instead of having to rely on that auxiliary heat strip, which is the single most inefficient way you can do it. And we can move away from fossil fuels as well. And so the heat pump does 99% of the work, and then we let those back up to handle the rest of the 1%.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we've often talked about is the fact that the technology itself is not necessarily a new technology. But it's some of the vernacular around it is confusing for homeowners and for individuals. When they hear heat pump, they might not think about the capabilities that it has. But I mean, below freezing, and then there's Canadian winters.
So we like to stress test these products for sure.
Yeah, I mean, what are we looking at from a performance standpoint when it comes to dealing with climates like, I mean, a minus 25 degrees Celsius Canadian winter?
Yep. So we actually have a product in going through testing now in a lab and then through some reliability testing. And I've got the numbers in front of me so I don't mess them up. But our next generation of some extreme heat products, we're going to be 100% heating down to negative 35 Celsius. But our compressor continues to run, and so we've got continuous operation down to negative 40 Celsius. So when people say heat pumps can't work in really cold weather, I mean we're 100% at negative 35 C.
Yeah.
And so it's working, and our product, again, we like to stress test this. I mean, we can put it here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we've got field tests here, and it works just fine. But once we get up into Canada, and we actually did a production with the Discovery Channel up in Willow, Alaska, which proved, coldest place I've ever been, which proved the performance of this next generation of heat pump. Because to your point, people would go, not here, not here, not here. And so then we do field testing in all types of atmospheres and all types of temperatures. And so far, so good. The product's doing very, very well.
From your perspective, I mean, you talked a little bit about some of the consumers. Where do you think the biggest misconceptions are? Is it on the consumer side? Is it on the contractor side? Is it a little bit of both when it comes to some of the technology?
It's a little bit of both, honestly. We do, when we kind of see how this works, it's kind of a tiered system. So manufacturing, distribution, contractor, consumer, right? And so when we learned about the kind of the misinformation or lack of information at Midea, we kind of took it upon ourselves. And so through marketing, which you've now seen, right? And then through education of our distributor partners, we started that a couple of years ago, but then we found out that message wasn't getting through our distributor partners to the contractors. So all of the training, I've got a full training staff here that's so far this year has almost done 100 training classes across North America. So the next step we took was to convince the contractor was when we were doing product training on these heat pumps with our distributor partners, we asked them to bring their contractors in. And so that does a couple different things. One is when the contractor is sitting in this training session with their distributor and the manufacturer, they get to hear about the product and the performance straight from the horse's mouth, right? So the guys who had their hands in it and helped develop it. But number two is those contractors now see the close relationship that their distributor has with the manufacturer. And so really it's been a big win-win for us, but we've got to work with contractors. And then as they sit at the kitchen table with Mr. and Mrs. Jones, right, when they're looking at a new HVAC system, they can explain it, intelligently, and then know of case studies and things where this product has actually worked in those extreme climates.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about the training aspect, but I also want to talk a little bit about the growth opportunities that Midea sees in the Canadian marketplace, and where you think some of those advancements are going to come from.
Yeah, I mean, we know in Canada, I mean, the Quebec area really is a lot of electric, right? So
Yeah.
electric heat pumps, electric air handlers, auxiliary heat strips. So if we think about the area of Quebec, the better our heat pumps work, the less that auxiliary heater has to work. And so basically, you got a COP of one, which means one piece of energy comes in and one piece goes out, and it's not very good, right? So we want to try to increase that COP as much as we can. And so in those super cold climates, I mean, we've seen COPs of 2 to 2.5. So when our heat pump in temperatures as low as I said earlier, we're actually 2 to 2.5 times more efficient than that auxiliary heat strip. You know, once you move to like Ontario, for instance, they still have a lot of natural gas in that
Yeah.
area, and gas furnaces are still very popular. So we can do what we call a dual fuel system. So if you've got that gas furnace, and I've always said if the consumer says you're going to pry this gas furnace out of my cold dead hands, we say that's okay. So we can do our heat pump, our coil, your gas furnace, and then now the gas furnace, which you love, is now the dependable backup heat, just in case you need it, or heaven forbid there's a failure of the compressor, then you've still got that to back up on. So different sections of Canada, the same heat pump, but you just have two different types of backup, auxiliary heat and gas furnace. Both work well, and both, will take care of what they need to take care of.
Yeah. I think one of the misconceptions that we hear about as well is this idea that there's an upfront cost, as there is with any unit, but that the cost savings or the energy efficiency isn't fully realized until much later on. And I think part of that, again, it's battling those misconceptions. But can you talk a little bit about that, about sort of how those energy efficiency savings can be realized? Whether it's a size, whether it's sizing, whether it's dual fuel, whether it's auxiliary, what considerations consumers should be looking at and contractors should be aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is um, money drives behavior. And so I know through Canada, they've had some really good rebates.
Yeah.
And so once you go, all electric and then you go heat pumps. So we know that a heat pump is more expensive in the beginning than an air conditioner. So what we want to do is if we've got some nice rebates out there to help offset that, then we can go, okay, now it's a wash.
Yeah.
And now why wouldn't I go with this? And it's up to the consumer. Do a little research on your price per kW and your price per therm, right, for gas, and go which one is best for me. Is dual fuel best for me, or is the price per therm so high I need to stick with all electric? Where are the rebates? And then you pick, and you should talk to your contractor about that. So a good contractor should be up to date on all of the local rebates and federal rebates that are available to help offset some of that pricing. But either way you go, we want you to make an executive and a educated decision on which way you go. And I'll get into this a little bit. And that's why Midea is putting Midea branded showrooms across Canada. So consumers, contractors can walk into a showroom, have fully functioning equipment, can make an educated decision, almost like you do with a car. You go to a car lot, you take it for a run around the block, you kick the tires a little bit, and then you ask a lot of questions. That's what we're doing throughout North America as we plant these showrooms around, and we urge consumers and contractors to come in, pay our experts a visit, ask a lot of questions, and then we should be able to put some of these myths to bed.
I mean, is the policy environment up here in Canada more friendly for this transition to heat pump technology, or is it fairly consistent? I mean, as you say, a mom and pop shop with 275,000, so you've got some insights on other parts of the world. Is Canada late to the game on this, or are we just sort of in lockstep with other countries and other economies?
I would say probably a little bit ahead of the game.
Okay.
In the U.S., the last administration was a little more heavy on the electrification side and decarbonization side. This administration, not so much. But you still, when you're going to spend that amount of money as a consumer, see what's best for you. And I would also urge contractors to, again, do their research and do what's best for the homeowner. And so it was funny. This was probably a year or so ago. We did consumer research, and so we interviewed homeowners who had just within the last year replaced their HVAC system in their house. They had to be the major decision maker. They could not work in the HVAC industry, and they had to be a homeowner. And we asked them, and contractors need to listen to this. We asked them, what was part of your decision making? And I'd say 75% of them or more said, I just did what my guy told me to do.
Mm.
And so contractors, you have the power to come in and again, let them know and don't have this fear of missing out by going, oh, that product's a little more expensive. I shouldn't offer that. They're turning to you because you are the expert. Lead them in the right direction. Let them know what's best for them. Let them know what rebates could help offset some of that cost. And you'll find out that they'll make the decision that is best for them because you offered it to them, just like the consumer research homeowners did and what they said.
Can we talk a little bit about that expertise component? Because I think there's, you've got you're in the field staff and your sales and your business development folk, and then you have your actual, your installers. Where do you see the biggest, and if there is, where do you see the biggest knowledge gap in this market right now?
I think what I've seen is as my training team scours North America, I think that the distributors are getting much better because we're hammering them pretty hard. But I do see that gap there after to the consumers, and we got to get that there to where when they see heat pump, they don't automatically go, whoa, wait a minute, it's way too cold up here for a heat pump to work. I can't do that because my auxiliary heater runs all the time and my utility bill goes way up. So I think we still got to kind of do this bottom up education where the consumers, those are the ones that are going to make the decision, homeowners, for their own house. And let's make sure whether that's through distribution, through contractors and to the consumers, or directly from us as we do, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or social media, we've been very, very busy on that as well to make sure that consumers know the performance of these products and are not afraid to put them in their own house.
As I'm sure you know, the industry is facing a bit of a labor crunch right now. Finding the skilled workforce to do the work is as much of a challenge sometimes as finding the work.
Yeah.
Where's the workforce from Midea's perspective in terms of its capabilities to do the installs on this type of equipment?
So over the last year and a half, we've been pouring a lot of effort into trade schools. And part of the reason for that is we understand as things change, maybe the budget in these trade schools weren't what it was at one point in time. And so when you think about high performance inverter driven heat pumps and systems, maybe they don't have a budget to put that in their trade school. Maybe they're working on 20-year-old equipment that is a hand-me-down. So over the last year and a half, we've been donating free of charge, no strings attached, not only ductless systems, but central ducted systems, because we don't want that budget deficit for that trade school to decide whether they can put this equipment in their school or not and teach this next generation. I did a talk at the Air Conditioning Contractors of America a few weeks ago with contractors everywhere. And I looked up a quick stat prior to doing that. And so the average age of the HVAC technician in North America now is 56 years old. And I'm 56. So I thought to myself, boy, these guys are as old as me. We got to get some fresh blood in here. And so it really helped us to make that decision. Let's pour into these trade schools. Let's make sure they have the right equipment. Let's train them and train the instructors to make sure that they know what it is, how it works, how to install it, how to service it, how to troubleshoot it. And then that next generation will be able to get their hands on this product.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's the secret sauce right there, right? It's hands-on and showcasing the technology.
We don't want them to be afraid of it.
No, absolutely not. So from Midea's perspective, from your perspective, David, where's the market going sort of in the next 3 to 5 years?
The technology will just keep getting better. I mean, when I put those numbers, and again, I have them in front of me, we went from our current product, which was, 100% heat down to -25 C. And then our next generation, we're going to -35 C. And so we work tirelessly on what's next, what's next. And so even from the research and development side, we'll come out with a new product and we'll go, okay, this is going to hit the market. In a few days, the question that's asked of me is, okay, what's next? And there's no time to rest. There's no time to stop innovating. And then the other thing that we want to focus on, ease of installation. So as the product gets a little more technical, again, we don't want these guys to be scared of it. So what can we do to make this easier to install? And a perfect example of that is our Midea Evox G Cubed air handler, which one of the questions they asked me, but when we started to develop this product was what's a real pain point of contractors? And I said, well, this air handler is huge. You know, it's 150, 175 pounds. It's in one piece. You got to muscle in an act or in a crawl space or down steps or whatever. So we made it modular. Within like 2 minutes, this big air handler can knock down into 3 different pieces. So ease of installation, ease of troubleshooting, right? So when there is a problem, you can figure it out and make it easy to service. So performance plus ease of installation, troubleshooting, and service. All that I think is the perfect product. And then we'll have the marketing team work on it. My training team go out to make sure everyone's comfortable with it. And then everybody sort of wins in the process.
Absolutely. For contractors who are considering this or trying to get into the market, I mean, what advice would you give to those contractors who perhaps haven't been at a point where they're promoting heat pump technology, who maybe want to start heading into that market? What advice would you offer them who might be on the fence about this?
Whatever brand you're installing, depend on your distributor to educate you. If your distributor is not educating you on this, here's the problem is everything will fall to minimum efficiency, minimum capacity, because that's what I know and it's easy. So we challenge distribution to get on the front end of this training. And so the contractors are comfortable with it. And that's why my guys, run like crazy all across North America, trying to get the word out and trying to make people as comfortable as possible with it. So if I'm a contractor and I'm attached to a specific brand, I lean heavy on my distributor to train me and make me more comfortable with it. And again, that's why my idea is setting up showrooms all across North America. And any contractor of any brand can walk into our showroom and start asking questions, and we'll help them.
Awesome. As an association, we try to stay out of politics as much as possible. But obviously there's one of the big issues that have been concerning our members across the country has been the global trade war and some of those challenges. I'd love to hear a little bit, if you can, how is Midea impacted by that and dealing with the challenges that some of that's imposed, certainly on the North American market?
Yeah. So, as big of a company as we are, it's pretty incredible. As big as a company as we are, we move quick and we're very flexible. So, and that's also one of the benefits of being a huge company. We've got manufacturing locations across the world. And so we can kind of share some of that manufacturing pressure, right? All across the world, we've got at least 8 manufacturing locations just dedicated for North America. And it's because we do the entire world, but it seems like things are calming down a little bit. I think with everyone, whether it's a marriage or whether it's yesterday being Father's Day, if it's a father and a son or a father and a daughter, communication is key. Yeah. And so let's put our pride aside and let's communicate. We got a global economy. Let's make it that way. Let's get things to settle down a little bit. But from the Midea side, again, global Fortune 500, but we're mighty quick and mighty flexible. So we can move some things and shift some things around to where it doesn't hurt a little bit. It's hurt everybody a little bit, but maybe not so much.
At the start of our conversation, David, you talked about the first phone call you had, that 45-minute phone call about coming to join Midea. You said, there was a lot of things that got you pretty excited. So, I think when 5 years goes by that fast, it's clearly you're excited about things. Now, what's got you the most excited about Midea for the next 5 years, whether it's a product or a service? I'd love to hear, what's bringing you into the office every day and got you excited?
I have to be honest, a lot of it is I see a lot of young people rolling through here. Engineers fresh out of college, and we've got a building full of co-ops who come in and work super, super hard. And to get those really smart folks from all around North America to come here and to learn, and maybe for some people, people don't love HVAC as much as I do. I mean, it's been my passion, and I've lost more days and hours of sleep over HVAC than most people have been alive. But when we get the younger generation in here and they get passionate about HVAC, it's no different than what I said about the trade schools, right? We get into the trade schools and we get them fired up about it, but we get a lot of the youth through here. And anytime I talk or I mentor one of the young folks, I tell them two things. One is be as valuable to as many people as possible. So when you're in this building, ask questions, be curious. We've got a group of professionals here. There is no dumb question. And the second one is make yourself uncomfortable every day. Every day, put yourself in a position that you're not sure you can do it, but somehow you do it. Because if we live in this bubble, we never stretch ourselves. And so we got a smart group of folks here, but I do challenge them to stretch themselves and make themselves uncomfortable, get out of that bubble and start to learn a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think you're seeing, I think, a generational awareness that's occurring about this industry and just how important this industry is, not only to our economy but to our day-to-day lives and just our comfort level. I'm just going to do a little plug because we wrote our very first children's book here. It's called Susie's Shed, and it's I mean, it was targeting young women in the industry or young girls to consider getting into this industry, just showing them some of the fun roles. So Susie and her friends go and they convert an old shack into a little clubhouse, and it's some makeshift duct work happening, and there was some boxes and some glue, but it's been a really popular book for us, and hopefully it's going to take time. It's incremental, but we'll see a generational shift continue to happen with young women as well as young
We
people.
hope so. And let me tell you, we've got some of the brightest young women I've ever met in my life here, and I love it. It's a very diverse workplace because one of the reasons that's important for us is a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old female is going to have a different opinion than an old crusty curmudgeon like me on what a product should look like, act like, sound like. They're going to have a different. So we want to take all of that and mix it all together. And when this product comes out the other end through the development process, it has attractiveness to different generations and different people and try to hit as many as we can. And so we've got a lot of people here, a lot of different ideas, and we do a lot of brainstorming, a lot of innovation sessions to say there are no dumb ideas. Let's stick them on the wall and let's talk through it. And then we back those ideas up with consumer research. And we go, okay, awesome idea. I think it's going to work. And then we go interview a homeowner or we go interview a contractor and they go, that'll never work. And so we go, okay, that's okay. But now we know. And so it is through that innovation and product development process. It gets me, as you can tell, passion isn't my problem. It gets me fired up every day to come in here and to teach some people.
Any product that you're particularly excited about right now?
Right now, over the last few months, we just launched what we call our Midea Evox G cubed air handler, the modular piece. One of the important parts of that I want to kind of talk about real quick is as we go through this decarbonization, electrification, and somebody says, I want to be on the cutting edge of that, and I want to take out my gas furnace and I want to put it in an air handler, we've got auto voltage detection. So that same 115 volt that fed that gas furnace, we can now feed the air handler. And so it takes away a lot of the expense of now I need a $3,000 electrical upgrade or whatever. We kind of do that. So that's where we are now. Last week I came out of an innovation session for another some more equipment that we've got. I can't talk about now, but one of the other things, our package window heat pump. So our package window heat pump is incredible. And we did that through the New York City Housing Authority. And it is a cold climate window heat pump with an inverter compressor in it. And so it works wonderful. We've got 20,000 of them going in New York. It's been very popular through Canada as well. 115 volt plug, 15 amp breaker, and now you've got cold climate heating through a window heat pump.
Oh, cool. Fantastic. That kind of struck a chord with me because, you think about 20,000 of these units, obviously there's pressure on the grid. And I think that's the other misconception, or not necessarily a misconception, but something that gets talked about a lot right now is the grid capable of this transition? And I'd love to get if you have any insight on that or your thoughts on that. Are we in a position where if we all went electric, we're going to be okay, or do we still have a lot of work to do on that front too?
We still do have work to do, but let me say this. So a couple of different things hit me is one is as we push for the electrification side of this thing, we're not going to snap our fingers and it's not going to be tomorrow, right? And so you've got to start building this road before cars can actually run on it, let's say. So the other part, let's get it out there, and then people with the strain on the grid through high performance cold climate heat pumps, we now don't have to depend on that auxiliary heater, which is the least efficient way. So not only are consumers and contractors our customers, but utility providers are our customers too, because they're so concerned about, okay, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody had their heating scaled back last night. Now everything's going to hit, and that auxiliary heat strip's going to light up. And at 6:30, 7 o'clock this morning, there's going to be a strain on the grid. The second part of that is this is why everyone needs to be educated and do their due diligence on inverter-driven variable speed products. So unlike a single stage compressor, like a car, it's either zero or full blast. With an inverter driven, it'll start where it needs to start slow, ramp up, ramp down. So it's not on, off, on, off, on, off. It'll find a load of that home. It'll stay there for the majority of the day. Short cycling is one of the worst things you can do with an HVAC system. It's bad for the system. The amp draw and startup is bad. So do your education and get in and learn about cold climate inverter driven heat pumps. And that in itself will help take the strain off the grid whenever we go all electric.
Okay. So somebody wants to learn a little bit more about Midea. Obviously, online is probably the best place to go, and then these showrooms are starting to pop up across the country as well.
You got it. So one of those two. So the website, MydeaComfort.ca for our Canadian friends. So MydeaComfort.ca. It's got all of our products, all the specs, the performance. We've got some case study videos on there, like the Alaska project we did up in Willow, Alaska. That case study is on there. And then across, if you live close to one of our Midea showrooms, I do ask, and it'll be worth your while, if you're planning on replacing your HVAC system soon, or you just want to know about what it can do in case it fails, what the current products can do in case my product fails and it's getting older, hit one of our showrooms, and they're packed with experts. And again, there is no dumb question. Ask those questions, educate yourself. And the stat is the HVAC system in your house is going to be like the second most expensive thing you do, minus the roof. So if you're going to spend that amount of money, it needs to be an educated decision so you know what you're spending your money on. So go to a showroom, talk to the experts, and go to MydeaComfort.ca, and you'll learn a lot more about the products.
Awesome. Well, David, I really want to thank you. Appreciate you taking the time with us today. I do always like to offer up the last word. If there's anything else you want to add or anything you think just we need to make sure everybody who's listening understands there's key takeaway.
Yes. So we'll go back to heat pumps and the lack of knowledge. So every heat pump is not born equally. Ask about cold climate modeled heat pumps. We actually call ours, or we're shifting it to all climate heat pumps, because within a compressor, anytime you juice it up for winter, you're also doing it a great favor on the air conditioning side too. And so you can ask about Midea all climate heat pumps, or if you have a favorite brand, just ask about the cold climate model of that heat pump. Look at the specs, understand it, ask your contractor a lot of questions, and make that decision educated, because they can work in the coldest of climates nowadays. And so don't be afraid of that technology.
Awesome. Well, David, again, thank you very much for taking the time today. Hopefully this isn't the last time we have this conversation, as I know it's a very exciting market and there's a lot happening. So we appreciate Midea being here and you taking the time.
Yeah, well, Ken, thanks for this platform, and thanks for giving the industry a little oomph, right? So we can talk about these products and get the word out.
Oh, it sounds great. Looking forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.